So for our today's class, we are going to learn about lookup functions in Excel. So if you can see my screen, please indicate. It's just MJ that can see my screen. Okay.
Okay, I can see it also.
So we're going to look at lookup functions in Excel, and lookup functions are functions as the name implies. So they are functions that we use to look up values in Excel. So there are times where you want to find something, right, in your data set. And let's say you have like an employee data set, and you want to find, let's say, the salary which an employee receives or something like that, right? So instead of going through your entire data set to search for that person's name and start tracing the value to get that. So you might say, oh, I can use my sum if to get that, right? Okay, let me change that. So you have an employee, you want to check the address, let's say the email address of that employee. You cannot use sum if when it comes to that, right? Nice. So you have the data set that contains the name of employees, and you want to check for, they say, okay, get the email of this particular employee. So you don't want to go to your data set to start searching to find this employee so you can trace so that you can trace what are they going to go. Yep, you can trace it down to the email, right? Another person will say use the, sorry, let me accept this person. I keep forgetting I'm not in the interface. Please, all of you that are joining by this time, don't make this network to hang on. I struggle to be here. So this network is giving me plenty issues. Okay, so some persons will say, or some people will say, why not just use the um search and find and replace function to find this person, right? Why are you using lookup function? Now, in Excel in particular, ways of ways of how do I put it? You have ways of searching for, and you have ways of doing things, like different ways of doing one particular thing. So find and replace is something you can use to do that, right? It's going to work perfectly. But let's say you want to have it in a data, you want to have it in a table. Are you going to use find and replace to find everybody? No, right? Two, most interviews, most of what we are going to be learning today, like your VLOOKUP, your HLOOKUP, I'm telling you the importance why you are doing lookup function. Like your VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP are like your ancient lookup functions. Like they were the ones that were there before, that were created before your lookup functions. But now they have advanced ones like XLOOKUP, lookup, index match, and the rest. Right? Some people will say, why are you learning HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP? I put it to you, right? Do you have 99% chances of meeting HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP as your first interview question when you apply for a job? I don't know why they like that question so much. But what I think is most interviewers or most HRs or people that are going to interview you, they go to AI tools and then they ask them, we want interview questions for a data analyst, and the AI is bringing VLOOKUP function, HLOOKUP functions. Why? Because the AI has not been updated to know that there is something called XLOOKUP, or maybe it has not even been updated to know that there is something called index match, right? So it's used to this particular lookup function, and they are giving you to answer it. So you might just go and learn XLOOKUP because why will I teach you all these things when XLOOKUP can do practically everything? Why do I teach you this one that is ancient? It's so that when you sit in your interview, you not say, ah, Annie has killed me, oh, she did not teach me this one. That's one. Two, when you start working in a company and they are using older version, so let's say your company they're using 2018 Excel and they have asked you not to update anything. So you cannot use lookup function because you don't know how to use VLOOKUP. You only know how to use XLOOKUP. So you need 365. So that is a limitation. So it's more like So you skipped primary school to go to secondary school because secondary school is going to teach you more advanced thing, right? So you don't want to be in that place. You want to have like a broader knowledge where you say, I can use this in this condition and I can also use this in this condition. That is why you're going to be learning most of the lookup functions that you're going to learn today. So tomorrow, someone should not come and ask me, why do you teach me VLOOKUP function? Me and you will fight. I've told you the reason now. So we have lookup functions and we use these lookup functions to look for values in our data set, right? Now, we're going to start with the lookup function. The lookup function, so they have grades. We have four types of lookup function. We have the V, we have the H, we have the index match, we have lookup, we have X lookup. Sorry, five. We have five, not we have five, not what are they calling it? Four, right? V, H, index match, lookup, and X lookup. So lookup is like the it's not the most recent is X lookup. I'm just bringing lookup first so that you can have a better understanding before we go to the other ones. So lookup is like, so if let me give an example. If X lookup, sorry, if V lookup came out 2010, H lookup came out 2010 also, they're like together. Then index match came out 2011. Then these are not the years where they came out. I'm just giving an example of how they fall. Then what are they calling it? Lookup came out 2012, then X lookup 2013. So that's like the most recent, right? So X and lookup is like before X lookup, before the recent one. So it's like the second recent one, that kind of thing. Now, so that we're going to start with the lookup function. The lookup function takes the lookup value. I'm going to explain what that means. Takes the lookup vector and also the result vector, right? Sorry, let me accept this person. Okay, there's nobody there. So now, what do we mean by the lookup value? You have an employee data set, right? And you have the employee name. So let's say your employee is Adenike, right? Your employee is Adenike, and you want to look for Adenike's salary or you want to look for Adenike's email. You have the data set of your employees and you have Adenike's name. So you want to look for her email in that data set. So your lookup value is the name. That's you have a name. That's the lookup value you have. That is her name, right? You're going to give Excel the lookup value. The lookup vector is where you can find the name. Remember in our last class, we spoke about range and criteria range. Now, exactly the same thing. So your lookup vector is where you can find the name. So where can you find the name? In the name column. The lookup value, the name, that's Adenike, right? The lookup vector is where can you find Adenike? You can find Adenike is the name range, right? Then your result vector is the column where you want to get your result. That is the email column. That is you want to get her email, right? So that's your result vector is your email column. Straight to the point, very easy. So you call out your lookup function, you give it the lookup value, which is Adenike, right? The lookup vector, where can you find Adenike? In the name column, you give it to Excel. Then the result vector, what do you want to find? The email. So you give Excel the email column. That's just what our lookup function is about. Just this. Somebody's hand is up. Am I tripping? Okay. Hope you guys can hear me and you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. So now we have an idea of what lookup functions are using our lookup. That is like the easiest one. Let's go back to our ancient ones. Now, our V lookup. Our V lookup is also known as our vertical lookup, right? When we get to Excel, you know why it's called a vertical lookup function. So Our vertical lookup function searches for row values in the first column of the table and returns value in the same row from another column that you specify. So it goes row, like rows, not column. So you give it a column, it will search, okay, Morenike, it will give you, you give the VLOOKUP Morenike name, and then it will go to the column and drag from Morenike down to the email, right? That is in the same row but different columns, right? Now, one of the limitations we have for our VLOOKUP, which I might not remember to tell you, that's what I'm telling you now, is that your VLOOKUP moves from the first column to the left. So you start searching from the first column to the left. It does not go to the right. You give it, so if let's say your name column, let's say you have something like, let's say ID, right? You have the ID column as the first column. You have the name and you have the email, right? Let's say you just have these three columns. Now you give Excel the name and you say go and search for the email for me. Excel will go to the left, that is, it will go this way. Now if you give it the name and tell it to go and find the ID for you, it will not get it. It will throw an error because your VLOOKUP function cannot go to the right. So it moves from that your lookup value column to the left. It searches for values from the left side of your column. It does nothing concerns it with the right. So it will not go back. That is one of the limitations of your VLOOKUP functions, why they brought other functions to help it be better. Like your lookup function, the first one we just spoke about now, don't have that limitation. But your VLOOKUP function has that limitation because it was one of those first lookup functions, right? Now, that is one of the limitation. Now, another value, our VLOOKUP takes our lookup value, a table array, column index, right? And then a range lookup. Now, most of these things, they have different names, but then they do the same thing, right? You just need to understand which one is for which. So your lookup value, we already explained that. We said our lookup value is what you have. So what we have is Adenike. That is the name we have, right? Your table array. Now, like I explained, you have ID, you have name, you have email. You are going to create a table array that is starting from the name column. Your table is starting from ID, but now what you have that you want to look for is Adenike, right? So you're going to start a table array. So you're going to create another table that contains the the name column, and also the result vector column. So instead of it being like this, where you have the lookup vector and the result vector separately, you are going to create an array more like a table that have these two things combined. So you're going to create an array that starts from the name column and maybe ends in the lookup the the result vector column, or you can go beyond, you can decide to add more values, but it must start from the name column, that is your lookup value column. That is where that array must start from. So you can go beyond, like go above and keep going above your result vector column, but it cannot start from anything that is not your lookup value column. That is one. That's what we could be. We're going to see how to create a table array. Then we have the column index number. So when you have created this array, this your new table inside that table, you are going to count the columns. So the column number for your result vector, instead of calling out that column, you just give Excel the number. You give Excel the number and say, okay, take the number, not the name. This is the number. So that in case you created a very big array, so Excel don't waste its time and start going through each column. You just go straight to that particular number and get your value for you, right? And then you have your range lookup. Your range lookup is either you want a true value or you want a false value. A true value means you want approximate match. So if I don't find value for Adenike, should I return for Adekola since they are related? I don't know if you understand. That's what the range lookup is trying to talk about. So either you say true or you say false. False means give me exact match. So if you don't say Adenike, return that you don't say Adenike. Don't give me Adekola, don't give me Adetunde, just give me Adenike's value. That's what we mean by the range lookup. This is for our VLOOKUP, our vertical lookup function. Then we have our HLOOKUP. Our HLOOKUP is same thing as our VLOOKUP, but now it is horizontal lookup function. So instead of it to search for value in the same row, it searches for value in the same column. So we use this value when we have inverted tables. So when your column is in row and your two rows is in column, we're going to see what that means. So let's say you have the headers of your column in the rows. So in the first row you have ID, in the second row you have name, in the third row you have email. You can see that it's inverted. Before it was in different columns, now it's in different rows. So you, instead of switching your table or even try to use your transpose function to turn your table the other way around, why not just use your horizontal lookup function to find your value? That was why that was created, right? So use your horizontal lookup function and do the same thing you would do with your lookup function, with your VLOOKUP. So the same thing, it takes the lookup value, the table array, the row index number. You can see now it is row index number because the names of your table are now in rows. So you have name in row one, sorry, you have ID in row one, you have name in row two, you have email in row three. That's why it is called row index number. Then you have the range lookup. The same thing with your VLOOKUP function. Then we have our index function. We have our index match function. The index match function is the combination of two functions, index and match, right? So if you did your assignment, you see one of the corrections, I think correction to number 14, where we use the index function, right? Now you're going to see the index function. So the index function return the value of a cell at the intersection of a particular da 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 da. So what it takes, what your index function takes in terms of lookup function is very, very small, right? But your full index function takes an array, right? So it's more, an array is more like a column. So the fact that it is called an array doesn't mean that it's a big thing. It can be just be one column or two columns joined together. So it takes an array, it takes a row number, or it takes a column number, right? So you give it like an array, you give it a column number, you give it um a row number. So it is very hard. I've hardly seen where they use index function alone. So usually combine with things, index and if, index and match, index and mode, and all that, right? So that's for your index function. That's what it takes. For your match function takes the lookup value, the lookup array, the match type. Now, if you notice something, your match function is taking lookup value. That is Adenike. The lookup value is Adenike. It's taking the lookup array, right? The lookup array is now where you can find Adenike. That is the name column. The match type is either true or false. That is either you are giving me exact value or you are giving me closest value. That's that. Do you notice that it is not taking the result vector? There's no space for you. There's no space where you were asked to get the result vector. Now, because it does not have that function present, right? This is why you are now combining it with your index function. So your index function matches this value, like it will trace it and match that, yeah, and use the match function to get that value. So when you combine your index match function together, right, your index function is going to take that array now that you have, like I told you in the first one. I said this array that you have here, that is what we are going to be using. So that array that your index function takes is now going to be the array for your result vector. That result, that email column you want to look for email. That is what your index is going to take, right? And it will match it to whatever value we have there. So your match function now takes the lookup value, that's Adenike, right? And then the column where that's our lookup vector, that's the column where you will find Adenike, that is the name column. And then this is just the um what are they calling it? What's this thing called here? The match type, whether you want exact match or you want um false match or so and so on, right? So that is the combination of your index match function. So your index match takes the array, that's your return vector. So if you notice, this is very, very close to the first one we saw. That's our lookup function, where we gave it the lookup value, we gave it the return, the lookup array, and then we gave it the return array. But it's just like a switch. So the return array comes first this time, the lookup value, and then the lookup array. Just the combination of the two. So if you notice that as it's getting older, the older Excel gets, or the older the generation gets, or how do I put it, or the as the year goes by, they are making this function better. So it was after this index match function came about, after the VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, the index match, the next function that came about is now the lookup function, the one we saw first. That's why that one was simpler. That one was easy to was good to go, like was just way to go, right? Because it was now after they created it and then they say, okay, why do we have two functions? Let's make one function that takes all this value, right? Then the lookup function that we saw first came about, right? I only started with that one so that VLOOKUP will not throw you off balance. You know that it's not so hard. So after that came our lookup function.
Hello, Annie. Annie,
Please don't tell me that
very
you
sorry
guys
to
have not
cut you
been
short.
hearing me.
There are some people.
Ah,
No, we have been. There are just some people that needs to be let in.
it's just one person. I've accepted that. Choma, sorry. I didn't see you before. Who is us? I can't see another person here. It's only tell that person that there's nobody here.
This thing is not fair. Have you gone too far already?
I didn't see you here. You were not here. I kept on checking. You were not here. Maybe it was my network.
Okay, it's alright.
So the most recent one, which you only get to see in 365, I don't know whether you see it in 2021 version, but the most recent one you see in 365 version is your X lookup. So your X lookup is like, oh, the oga patapata of them all. It still has its limitation, which will make them create another lookup function later. But for now, it's the most recent one, and it does what other function like cannot do, right? So index match can do what lookup function is doing, but index match function cannot do what X is doing. Lookup function cannot do what X is doing. That is why it is called X, right? So your X lookup function does can do what your lookup function, your normal lookup function is doing, the one we saw first, can do only that, can do more than that, right? So now your X lookup function takes the lookup value. So if you notice from here to here, this is our X lookup function. This is our lookup function that we saw first. So it takes the lookup function, the lookup array, which is also known as the lookup vector. That is, we have Adenike. The column where you can find Adenike, that's the name column, is your lookup array, right? The return array is the column where we want to return. That is the email column. That is that. So from here to here is our lookup function, the one we saw first. But if you notice, we have other features here. If I write these three things and I close my brackets when I'm doing a lookup function and enter, I'm going to get a value. That is going to work perfectly. But we have other advanced feature that you might want to use. So we have a feature like if not found. So your if not found is like if error function. So if I want to use if not found function in what are they calling it, in the VLOOKUP, SLOOKUP index, sorry, in the index match, VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, I'll have to use the if error function. I'll combine the VLOOKUP and the if error function together to be able to do this. But now for the XLOOKUP, the XLOOKUP is saying, oh, I don't know if you know how to use if error function. That's not my business. Just tell me what I'm going to do if I don't find the value. Remember that that's what your if error is doing. So if error is practically saying, because if it doesn't find the value, it's going to throw an error. Definitely. It's going to throw an error. So that's what we are saying if not found. Like more like saying, what should I do if we find an error? So if remember that your if error function, that's what it's doing is that's what your if function is. Your if error function is doing, right? But now your X lookup came with that feature and it says, Just tell me what to do. So you just put a comma and tell it what to do without calling the if error function, right? Now we also have another one, which is our match mode. So under your match mode, remember we spoke about saying exact match, closest match. There is a function called wildcard. So let's say um Adenike's full name is Adenike Omotosho, right? So if I don't give Excel, if I'm looking for Adenike Omotosho in my data set, right? I say go and get me the email. If I go to my VLOOKUP function and give Excel just Adenike without adding the surname to it, Excel is going to say, I don't know what you're talking about. Going to throw an error because it will compare the column. The column is saying Adenike or Motosho, but you are giving me only Adenike. So these two things do not relate. If you go to the HLOOKUP function, it's also going to throw an error. If you go to the lookup function, error. Go to index math, error. Now your XLOOKUP function came with a feature that says, okay, you might not know everything in that particular column. You might know that, okay, I know that her name is Adenike, but I don't know her surname. So just get me Adenike in the data set, right? So I'm going to tell it I'm using the wildcard mode. So I'm going to give it only Adenike, and it's going to go and find Adenike for me. Now, when I was talking, I spoke about limitation. One of the limitation in XLOOKUP is that if I have two Adenikes in my data set, Excel is only going to return just one Adenike. That is the very first Adenike it finds. So what if that is not the Adenike I'm looking for? What happens? I don't know, right? So now that's the limitation about your XLOOKUP function, which I think they might handle later. But that's one of the limitations I have noticed. So it gives you only the first Adenike it finds in that data set. It will not care about the other ones. So maybe later it's going to be updated to give you all the Adenikes you have in that data set, right? So that's for your match mode. You also have the search mode also. So your search mode, let's say you have about 1 million rows, and you know that Adenike is towards the end. So let's say you know that Adenike is towards 900 and let's say you know Adenike is around 800,000, sorry, yes, 800,000, the 800,000 row. So you don't want your computer to be, now you're working with a very small data set and your computer is going very fast. Trust me, when you put on 500,000 rows, you will know that your computer is not as fast as you thought to. So you know that computer reads codes line by line. So when you give it Adenike and Adenike is at the end, Excel is not going to do gibberish and do and go straight to that place. No, it will be going line by line, meaning that it will start from row one, process everything that is in row one, go to row two, process everything that is in row two. So how long do you think it's going to take you to get to Adenike that is in 800,000? Very, very fast or very, very slow. Very, very slow if you ask me, because you'll be seeing that in 30 minutes your data set is still loading, or especially if you're using a very slow system, mean that you can even stay there 2 days and they've not found Adenike. So you give it a match mode. Maybe you tell it that it should start from the beginning or it will start from the end. So you give it a search mode. So that it starts on top of the data or at the end of the data. So it can be faster. So if you know that the value you're searching for is at the end, but that feature is only going to be necessary to you if you're working with a large data set. If you're working with a very small data, there's no need wasting your time about that. 1,000 rows, 200,000, 300,000 rows. I don't even think there's any need. But if you get to start working with, like, let's say 800,000, 500,000, I think you might need that feature to work, because in fact if you even put up to that thousand in Excel, the Lord be with you. The Lord be with you on your Excel, okay? So that is our latest function, which is the X lookup function. So we're going to go back to Excel and see how these things work. All these gibberish we've been speaking since, how can we apply them in your Excel? Let's see them work. So hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, you can see it.
So this is a customer data set where we have details about our customers, what they got, payment method. I think we used this data set in our last class. I can't remember. I think we used the same data set. So this is the customer data set, right? And you are a data analyst working in this company or in this supermarket. And let's say you want to find out a detail about a particular customer, right? So you have customer ID C C17608086 or something like that, and you want to find, let's say, the payment method that this person used in paying. So let's say there is an issue in the company or something like that, or somebody came to complain. You don't want to go to your entire data set and start searching like this, right? Another thing I said is some people can say, oh, why not use the find function to do that? Yes, you can use the find function to do that. But now when you want to, I said up something about when you want to create um so and another thing is there's a difference between working as a data analyst and working as a layman. So there are times where you want your work to look like you know what you are doing. Everybody can use the find function, but is it everybody that can use the lookup function? Another thing you want to do is show off. You know how to use a function, show off. Trust me, because you might think that, oh, it doesn't matter. It matters. Nobody wants to keep an employee in the office that is not learning new things, is not making everybody say, wow, I don't know how to put it, how to see. There's this joy or there's this pride that comes with you knowing how to do something and your colleague doesn't know how to do it. So you have to explain to your colleague how to do it. Gives you this feeling like, oh, I am learning faster, oh, I am on top, that kind of feeling. And I know everybody wants to feel that way, right? Now, so if you are using the every find lookup function that everybody knows how to use, what is making you special from the other person? So if you go for an interview and they're asking you how do you do this, and you say, oh, just use find. And me, then I sit the person down and explain how you can use lookup function to do this. They are definitely going to give me the job because they believe that I know more than you. Maybe I don't even know how to use the find function. That's the funniest part. Maybe I don't even know how to use it. But they believe that the find function is so simple, everybody can learn it. But for someone that can sit down and learn this other function is way better than this person. That's one of the reasons I see you learning some of these things you're learning as a data analyst, because you can do most of these things with just find and replace, right? That's one. Two, if you have a table of data, let's say your boss gives you, I've seen somebody like that, they give them like table, they create a table and write names of employees or write names of a particular data and tell you to find this value. So are you going to go here and do find and replace, find the person, you come here and type it? Go to this place, you do find and replace, come to this place and type it. Is that what you're going to be doing? You definitely don't want to do that, right? Now, this is where your lookup function comes into the picture, right? Not only do you want to do that, so that in case that name in that particular cell changes, if you are referencing that cell, the value changes. So if I want to use a particular cell now to find all my customers, so let's say a particular cell is where I have my customer ID and I want to find the payment method, I just need to be changing the customer ID in that particular cell and I'll be getting the payment method instead of going to do find and replace every time to find that value. Those are the advantages why you are using this value over the other one. But find and replace can do most of these things, like I said. But find and replace cannot do um what are they calling it, if error and all of that thing, right? Now you have this data set. You have been given this value, this invoice number, right, from this your data set, and you were asked to get the price attached to this invoice number. I already have the price here. Let me take it out. So you were asked to get the price that is attached to this invoice number. You don't know what the price is. So instead of going to this data set and start searching for that in the invoice number and tracing it down, why not use your lookup function to get that value, right? Now, I'm going to use our very first one, the very first one we spoke about, which is our lookup function, not our VLOOKUP, the lookup function. So to get the value that is attached to this, the price that is attached to this invoice number that I have here, I'm going to say equals to lookup. Now our lookup takes the lookup value. What is the lookup value? The invoice number. The one I was explaining with was Adenike. That's our lookup value. Now what we have is the invoice number. This is the invoice number you have that you want to use to look for something. So that is our lookup value. So we are going to give it to, we are going to reference that cell so that anytime we change the value in that cell, this value changes automatically. We don't want to be changing it all the time, right? We're going to put a comma. What is our lookup vector? Our lookup vector is the column where we can find the invoice number. Which column can we find the invoice number? The invoice number column, which is our A column, right? So we're going to give it from A2 down to A60. So A2 down to A60. That is our lookup vector. Then we have our result vector. So if you can see here, they also called it lookup value, they also called it array, right? So that you don't get confused. These names should not confuse you. What they mean is what you should know. So the fact they call it vector here, call it array here, call it range here, you should not be confused about it. Know what they all stand for, know what they are supposed to do, right? Now, your result vector, what do we want to get? We want to get the price. So we are going to give it the price column. The price column is our H column. So we're going to say, H2 down to H60. Close our bracket. That's it all. And enter. Now we have 40.66. So let's confirm. For the purpose of this class, this invoice number was gotten from number 15, right? So that I don't start looking for it. That's why I wrote number 15. Let's compare the value. So we have I179802. That's what we have here. Now let's trace down to the price. So we are sure that Excel did not give us the wrong value. So this is the price. You can see number 15. So this is the price that we have here. So we have 4066. That is the price. That's how you use your lookup function. That's how you use your lookup function to get this value. Very straight to the point. Now, if I change the invoice number I have here, let's say I change it to, um something else. Let me change that. Let's say I copy this value I have here, Control C, Control V. Can you see that the price has changed immediately? Why? Because we are referencing this cell. So anytime I need to look for a new price using an index number, all I need to do is to come here and change the index number, and then I'm going to get the price of that particular invoice number. That's all I need to do. This is how our lookup function works. Are we there? Hello?
We are
We
here.
are
We are
here. We
here.
can hear you.
We are here
Any
with you. We are giving thumbs up.
okay. Any question concerning this one? Are we confused about the lookup function?
I have a question, please.
Okay.
All right. The invoice number that you put here, your question was we should locate the price for that particular invoice. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can't hear you anymore.
I said okay. That's what I needed to clear.
Okay. So since we are clear about that,
Sorry, I have a question.
go
I have a
ahead.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this you we are looking for the price for that for the invoice number,
Yes.
but you highlighted the whole column, the H2 to H600 or something. You highlighted it.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask why.
Ah, So we have the invoice number. We have the invoice number. We're assuming you don't know what the
Okay.
price is. So if you don't know what the price is, how will you find the price?
Okay,
Who is the
so for
person
you
that
to
who is
find
the
the
person
price,
that
you
asked
have to
who is the
is
person that asked the question?
is Shema,
Okay, so what did you say?
is me. Okay, so you have to highlight the column for you to get the particular price for that particular column you're looking for.
Exactly. It's just like doing your sum if, your count if function. So you want to sum up with a particular value. Count if location is the north. So you give it the north, you give it the column, right? Because you don't know where this particular thing is. So Excel should go and find it. So if I have the price already, will I be
Mm,
using lookup function? I won't now. I'll just put the price there and I will move on. But I don't know what the price is and I want to
okay.
look for it. So I'm giving it the invoice number, then I'm giving it the column for price, and I'm telling it go and trace this invoice number. Go to the lookup value column, right? That's why you're giving the lookup value. So Excel will take this value you have here, this value I've given it. It will take it to this column
Mm,
that you have here. It will look for it all over this place. When e finds it, then to trace it to the price column. That's why you are giving it the price and you are giving it from beginning to end, because you are assuming you don't know where that value is in. The reason why I say that value is in number 15 is so that we can trace it and see if we got the right value,
mm,
right? But randomly, you just have an invoice number. Your boss just comes up and give you an invoice number and tell you, get me the price of this person. So you give it the invoice number, you give it where it can find that invoice number. So and then you give it the where the return column. What do you want? You want the price. So Excel takes this value, goes to the invoice number, look for it where it matches that column and find it. Okay, say okay, yeah, it's number 15. Then to trace it to the price column, because that is where you're giving it. So imagine you don't give it the whole of the price column. Let's say you give it from 1 to 10, and Excel is now tracing to number 15, and then it gets to number 15 and it cannot find anything there. It's going to return an error because it cannot find number 15, right?
yeah.
So that's why we're giving it the entire
Mm,
column. So we're assuming we don't know where this thing is.
I get now. Understand now. Thank you.
All right.
We can move, right? Any other person?
Nobody? So let's move, please. So we have our almighty VLOOKUP function, right? So we said our VLOOKUP function takes, so let's just put the equal sign so we'll see what our VLOOKUP function takes. Okay, I have this also. I have two examples for VLOOKUP. It's quite complicated. So we have the invoice ID and we're asked to get the age group. We have the invoice ID and we're asked to get the age group. No, let's start from, okay, I will explain better. So let's start from so that you see the limitation I'm talking about. So we have the customer ID and we want to look for the payment method. Are you guys there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
So we
Yes,
have
yes.
the
Yeah, we can
customer
hear you.
ID and we want to find the payment method of this customer ID. Right? We want to see the payment method that this customer used in paying this bill using our VLOOKUP function. So here we're going to say equals to VLOOKUP. So our lookup function takes the lookup vector, the table array. If you notice here, it's not called the lookup array, it's called table array because it contains two things. So it contains more than one column. When they call it an array, it's because when it is called an array, you just call it an array. It's because maybe it's one column, or it can be two, or it can be three. But when it's specifically called a table array, it means that it contains more than one column. right? Before you call something a table, it must be in rows and column, right? So it means that it contains more than one column. That's why it is called a table array, right? So let's create a table array. So I said your table array must I want to show you people the limitation will not show with this. Okay, yes, it will. So your table array must start from your lookup value. So your look must start from your lookup value column. Your lookup value we have here is our customer ID. Where can we find our customer ID? In this column, which is customer ID column. Your lookup array must start from here. Okay, no, sorry, let's start from this one. I want to show you the limitation. I just realized that it's this one. With this one, I can show you better. So now we have invoice ID and we have age group. You have the invoice ID of this your customer. You want to find the age group that this invoice ID fall under. So we have the invoice ID, which is our lookup value, right? Now your lookup value, you want to create a table array. Your table array must start from your lookup vector. That is, the lookup vector is where you can find that lookup value, right? Lookup vector where you can find your lookup value, right? Your lookup value is this ID you have here, right? So you want to create a table array starting from where you can find that value, which is your invoice ID. And you must cover through the value you are looking for. What are we looking for? Age group. So your table array is going to start from here and end here. So you can decide to make it the entire table if you want, but it must start from here. We are going to take another example and you will see why it must start from there. So your table array must start from here. It can end here if you want, but it must start from here. So it can start from here and end here, but you must have these two things in place. So this age group must be inside that array. So you can decide to add other value after the age group. Excel does not care, but the age group must be there, right? But your array must start from where your lookup value can be found. Now let's create a lookup array, right? So I'm going to highlight everything we have here. So I'm going to highlight from here. Let me just highlight to payment method so that you see the other limitation I'm talking about. So I'm going to highlight everything. So if you have large data, just do Control Shift down. Don't drag it like that. Control Shift down. So we're going to right click on this and we're going to go down here, your drop down arrow, and define a name. So you want to call it something so that anytime you want to use it, you just call out that name instead of wasting your time. So let me call it VC. That's what I'm calling it. I want to call it VC, that array I'm creating. And I'm going to say okay. Now I've created an array. So I'm going to go back to this myself and say equals to VLOOKUP. So my VLOOKUP takes the lookup value. This is my lookup value. My table array is the array I just created, which is my VC. So once you type VC, you see it. So I have my VC. My column index number is now the index number I have in that array. So if you notice that the fact that I called out VC, my array is already highlighted. The place I created as an array is already highlighted. So I'm going to count the index. The index number we're talking about is the result array. So the reason why you are giving it that number is so that when Excel comes here and find that lookup value, it will not waste the time going through all these other ones that don't matter. It will go straight to that index number and start looking for your value for you, because computer works line by line. So basically, if it comes here, it will search for this ID, right? So let's say this is the ID, the invoice number you give to it. So it will come to this column and read it. It will say, oh, this is customer ID, da 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 da. It will check, you say, oh, this is not what you're looking for. It will come and say, oh, this is not what you're looking for. Why not just give it, let it just jump and pass? So when you give it an index number, you say the index number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That is the column number. So you give it number 5. So it will come here and find the index, the invoice number, and go straight to number 5 and trace the value instead of wasting its time going through this other value. This is important because there are times where you have over 100 columns and maybe your value that you're looking for is in the 100th one. You don't want Excel to waste your time or any of these computers to waste your time. You go straight to the point. That's why you're giving it an index number. So our index number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is 5 because that is the result vector. That is what we want to look for, the age group. So we come back here and say 5, right? Then we have the range lookup. The range lookup which I explained, do you want approximate match or you want exact match? Approximate match is if I don't find this value that look this exact value, should I give you something that looks like it? You don't want that. You want exact match, right? You're going to say false. Close your bracket and enter. So the age group for this invoice number is old. The age group that is attached to this invoice number on our data set is old. Does that make any sense? Should be talking so that I'll know when my network has disconnected.
Yes, yes, it does. It makes sense.
Nice. So now let's go to number 2. Let me show you why your array must start from that particular value. So we have customer ID, we have payment method. So you are supposed to create an array, a new array that starts from customer ID because your lookup value is your customer ID. So you're supposed to create an array that starts from here. But some people might be like, oh, I already created an array that covers customer ID now down to the payment method. Let me just use it. Let's see what happens when you just use an array that did not start from where the lookup value is. So let's see. So here we are going to say equals to VLOOKUP. The lookup value is this. The table array is VC. And now the column index number, let's go and count. So we are going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to say 10. Then the range lookup, we're going to say false. Close our bracket and enter. Now we have LAL. Excel is saying, I don't know what you're talking about. This is because our lookup array did not start the table array we just did. It did not start it. So to be able to get the correct answer, this is our lookup value. Our lookup array must start from this column. So we have to go to your customer ID column, highlight everything down to your payment method. Like I said, you can go beyond it if you want, but it must cover these two things. Highlight everything you have there and create an array. So you are right clicking, going to your drop down arrow, define a name. So let's call this VC2 and OK. So VC underscore 2. So we have an array. So let's go back here. Take this out. Say equals to VLOOKUP. Give it our lookup value. Our table array is our V2. Our index number now is not going to be 10. Why? Because we created a new array. So we are going to start from the beginning of that array to start counting. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're going to come here and write 9. Then our range lookup is false. Close brackets and enter. Now we have a value credit card. You can see one of the limitations. Your array must start from your lookup value. Another limitation is, I'm giving you all the limitations of a VLOOKUP because interview questions 100%, that's what they ask. All interview questions I've seen, limitations of VLOOKUP. Now, another thing is we have customer ID. We cannot use the customer ID to find the invoice number. So we have this customer ID of this person. We cannot use the customer ID to find the invoice number. Even if we like, let's start the array from here, or start it from here, or start from anywhere. Why? Because Excel cannot go back. So when you give it to the lookup array, that is why your table is starting from there. So your table is starting from there so that it can move this way. So if your table starts from here, it will not move here. So if the value you are looking for is here, Excel will not even answer you. It cannot go back. It looks for value in the leftmost column. That is one of the limitation. So if they ask you, one of the limitation is that the table array must start from the return vector, right? Another limitation is that it looks for value in the leftmost column, meaning that if you have your lookup value in the right, like here, you have this, it cannot look for value in the right. It can only look for value around here for you. You can look for the gender, you can look for the age, you can look for the age group, category, and the rest. It cannot use this customer ID and find this invoice number for you. It cannot do that. But your lookup function that we did first can do that. It does not have that limitation. That is one of the limitation of your VLOOKUP function. Is that clear?
I have a question.
Yes. However, I have a question.
I have a question.
Yeah, you should be asking us.
Please, for this customer ID, because I know how your assignments to be. If you are looking for customer ID now and you want to look for both payments, price, and quantity, how do you do it?
So if you want to look for both payment, price, and quantity, I think there's a way to
Yes,
get
because that's how
everything
your
at
question used to come. Because you will just come look for this inside this. You will not be thinking, wow, this your
Somebody
last
has to
assignment.
explain.
Oh God.
Oh my god. So there's a way to I'm
Please
trying to
answer
I'm
on.
trying to remember that there's a way to get everything at once. Actually, there's a way to get everything at once. I think using I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Wait, just give me a few minutes.
Oh, take your time. We are waiting.
This you can be asking your question.
I wanted to ask, this VLOOKUP, what if what you're looking up is on the next, what is it called?
What if what?
On the next sheet. What if what you're looking up is on the next sheet?
You go to the next sheet and reference it now.
Okay.
You go to the next sheet and reference it. That is why anytime you put your equal sign, you notice that anything you click on, Excel picks it. It's showing in that calculation, right? It's just as if I have two here. I have two here. I can come to HLOOKUP here where I have two. I can come here and say equals to, go back to my VLOOKUP, say here and enter. So you can always reference the next sheet. So if your lookup value, this is where your
All right.
lookup value is, and you want to do, this is where your table is, and you want to do that value inside this place, and do it here now. You just have to reference the value you have in that sheet.
All right. Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
This person's question is loading. I don't want you to be doing it one by
I
one.
read it, so is it a big question?
Think something using a dollar sign. I'm trying to check the internet to
Sorry,
see.
with data validation, I think dollar sign is for locking something. I think so that you lock it.
You think data sign is what?
Dollar sign is for locking. You mentioned dollar sign. However, what I want to suggest is we can move on when you are relaxed, you can find out about this. Probably in the next class, that will be the first thing you say. Just to explain that before their future assignment comes, so we don't waste time.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
but do you think if data validation will work?
Oh yeah, call it. Call what I'm supposed to write. Call what you have now. Let's try.
Who?
Is it now who? You.
What do you, what do you have?
Eh?
Then what do you have? I
So I
was
think
talking
I think
about.
he's inside your. I think he's inside your. I'm thinking if you put like ampersand sign here. Let's try. So let's say not let's say 5 and let my Excel not crash. Oh. Let's see if that is going to work. No.
Like I said, we will leave this and you
No,
find
I just
out
want to try this
that
and we'll
that
continue.
will.
Don't worry. I know that there's a way they do it. Is either you do it that way or you do it one by one, but you don't want to be doing that.
Eesh.
Okay, okay. I'm just going to look for that later and send it for you guys. But that would have been your assignment question. Just get the Chris. Who is that person that asked me that question?
You see, there's also some of the ones in those assignments that we did. We don't even know how far.
Because you did not submit now.
I
If you
beg.
submitted, you will know how far.
I submitted though. I submitted. You said I did
You
not number it. I did
you
not do everything.
you
There are the
so
ones
you
I did not.
submitted work that wanted to send me to my village. I was just so confused. I said, what is this? You are lucky.
Oh wait, sorry, we can submit even if we did not finish it.
Yes,
Yes,
now
that's
I
what
was
I've
doing
been saying since.
everything.
Eh, I
Even
will
the,
submit
like
my
the
own
ones you
weakness.
mentioned that index this thing, it's there in that number 14. How do you know how to do it?
If
That
you had submitted, you
assignment,
will see how to do it, but you did not
Jesus.
submit.
I
Hey
submitted
God.
though.
So let's add our if error function so that you see why your if error function in your X lookup is um is like magic. So now we've gotten errors. So there are times where you'll be looking for a particular value, like we said. You might not even know if that particular data is available in your data set. Maybe you just want to check if that data is there, right? And if that data cannot be found, your Excel is going to throw an error, right? So if I change what I have here to something that does not exist, on a normal day, my Excel is supposed to throw an error, but except it's mad. You can see error because it cannot find it, right? So, and remember we spoke about our if error function. Our if error function is supposed to work on things like this so that your data does not look messy or your work doesn't look like someone that is just learning, right? So you want to put beautiful things like cannot be found, not does not exist, da 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 da. How do you do that? This is where your if error function comes in. We already explained this now last time. All you need to do is to wrap your VLOOKUP function inside that if error. So inside this function, at the beginning, I'm going to write my if error. So my if error, the value it's taking is the VLOOKUP. That's the value. So when the VLOOKUP finish doing its thing, it's now going to give if error and say take this value and check whether it is an error or not. So we're going to have a comma here, and what should it do if it finds an error? It should say um not found and then close our bracket. That is what our if error function does. And remember that our if error function, it does not affect your calculation when it cannot find an error. As the name implies, only when it sees an error. So if you say enter, we're going to get, it's going to do like, oh, I'm not even there. It's not going to affect it. The only time your if error function is going to work is, now let's go back here and let me remove that value I removed before. So this is what we are looking for in our data, right? And we don't know if that person is available. So we just pre-enter. You can see that the if error function is working now. It's saying because your VLOOKUP returned an error to it, now it's now using it and saying, okay, well, it cannot be found, instead of returning that NA error to us. Have you seen how you can embed this VLOOKUP inside your if error function?
Yes.
Please repeat this thing, please. Please, Edge.
So you just put your if error function, your VLOOKUP function inside your if error function. So your if error function takes value and what it should do if it finds an error. So the value can be a calculation. It can just be it can be a calculation, it can just be referencing a cell, it can be anything, right? So what it does is that it evaluates that value that you give to it and check if it finds an error in it. So if it's a calculation, it evaluates the calculation, that is that it will allow the VLOOKUP do its thing. The VLOOKUP will do it, will go and do its thing, look for the value and give it to the if error. So the if error is going to assess it, right, and check it. Okay, oh, is this an error? Yes. Okay, what this I should do? Is this not an error? Okay, go your way. So when it evaluates it, when your VLOOKUP finish doing whatever it's doing, it's going to give it back to the if error. The if error will check, okay, oh, it's not an error. Now your function will work as it's supposed to, which is returning credit card to us. But a situation where we give it a value that cannot be found, or a value that is going to return an error, like this now, I know that this is going to return an error because this value does not exist in my data. I just formed it. So a situation where you give it this value, it's supposed to return an error, NA error, as we saw the first time. But you don't want that in your data. You want your if error to handle it. Now, the fact that you already embedded that vector, that your VLOOKUP function inside the if error, anything you do to this cell affects that. So this is going to return an error. Now we are going to have not found because we told our if error function to return not found if it finds an error. Is that clear?
Yes, perfectly clear.
Okay. So that's for our VLOOKUP. Now we have our HLOOKUP. Our HLOOKUP, you can see now we have invoice number, invoice ID. You can see these things are now in rows. They are horizontal. These other ones, they are vertical. That's why they are called vertical. It's called vertical lookup function. This one now, we have our details horizontal. So it's checking for things in the same column, right? In the same column, not in the same rows anymore. So if I give it invoice number, it will go and look for payment method. You can see that it's the same column, right? It's no longer rows. That's why we are using horizontal lookup function. So the function was created in case you have your data like this. And there is a way that you can turn your data to be like this. So if you have this function, you have this table, right? And I want to switch this table to be like what we have there. All I need to do is to copy this. So Control A, go back to the top, Control A, Control C. Now I'm going to add new column, new sheet. Instead of doing Control V,
Control A, Control C together.
how do you copy data?
Control A.
You highlight data by clicking Control A. Control A is going to highlight your entire table, your entire range of cells. Control C is going to copy the data.
Okay.
Control V
Okay.
is going to paste the data. But now we are not going to do Control V. We are going to, either you click on this place where you have paste and you go down to spatial paste. and you click on a function called transpose. This function here, click on it, say okay, and now you're going to say okay. Now instead of my data to be pasted vertically, it has been inverted horizontally. Hope that is clear. So if you want to switch your data, instead of you to start writing it again, just do this to switch it to change your rows to column, your column to rows. That's what your transpose function is used for. Hope that is clear.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So we're not going to waste time for horizontal lookup because it's the same thing with our vertical lookup, just that it's horizontal. So we have the ID and we're asked to get the category, right? So what are we going to do first? You have the ID, you're asked to create the category, to get the category. What is the first thing we're going to do? I'm asking you people.
Equals to hit for
Nope.
Create the table array.
Good. Where is the table array going
sorry,
to
am I
start
the
from?
only one? But your screen is not moving. Sorry. Am I the one?
Can you see my screen? Can you see my this thing moving now?
Yes, I believe it's from his end.
Okay, likely it will be from my end because it's still not moving.
Alright. Who says create table array? Where are we starting to create table array?
Okay, from wow.
We can start from the invoice ID to the category or shopping mall.
You say you can, like you have other options.
We should.
So we're going to start from the invoice ID down to category. So it can be more than category, but it must start from invoice ID. So here, now instead of doing Control Shift down, where you highlight this, let's say we want to stop as quantity. Instead of doing Control Shift down, you're doing Control Shift right. I be left, sorry, not right, left key. Control Shift left, right? So Control Shift like this. This is what you want to highlight now, not no longer down. And we're going to right click and define a name. So let's call this one HC. So you're going to call it something descriptive enough that you can remember later. I'm using HC, VC because this is our class. Remember when you start working, you're not working alone and you don't want to give your 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 co-worker your data set there and then they'll be looking at HC. What is HC? Also, that's why they also give room for description so you can write exactly what that thing is supposed to do so that the person can just read through and see what that is supposed to do. So if you're writing, if you're naming things, you are documenting things, you need to write it in such a way that someone else is going to understand. Because trust me, if I come back later, I might not even know what is hasty until I call it out. But if I have a description of hasty, anytime I see it, I know what hasty is talking about. That's one of the advantages of being descriptive with your naming of things. So here we're going to say equals to h lookup. So h lookup takes the lookup value, which is this. Our table array is going to be ht. Our row index number now is no longer column index number because we are moving rows. So row index number is going to be number 6. That is where we have category. So we're going to say 6. Our range lookup is going to be false. That's all. Close our bracket and enter cosmetics. The same thing with our this one, but now we have to create a new table array for this. We're not going to be doing this because we have our time is many small and I want us to finish lookup function today. But is anybody confused about any of this? V lookup, H lookup?
sorry, I'm not confused, but I want
Please,
to. I
can
don't
you
want to
repeat
clear
the
something.
cosmetics, please?
Who said is not confused, but
Okay,
what?
okay, okay, I want to clear something. You've been saying right and left, but to me, it's like you've been making a mistake, like mixing left for right. Because when you said control shift for the highlighting of this, you said control shift left. So
I did
is
not
that
make a
right?
mistake. You are facing your computer, right? Turn your computer the other way.
Yeah.
Two of you should be facing the same place. Where is left? Where is right?
All right. All right. Okay.
Eh? Do you understand what I just said?
You are facing.
You are
Yes,
facing your
yes,
computer.
I get it.
Good.
Yes.
So this place, if you are moving this way, this you are going left. If you're moving this way, you're going right. That is why I say your
Okay.
VLOOKUP searches for value in your leftmost column.
Okay. I understand from the ideology now. I get it now from the ideology
All right.
because I've been thanks.
So when they say the left part of your computer, they're talking about this side. The right part of your computer, this side. You are saying it the other way because you are looking at it. When you turn it, the both of you should be facing the same direction. Then you see that it is left and right. So your H lookup is just like your V lookup. The only difference now is because that you can see that these things in our V lookup, we had them in columns. So we had customer ID, we had gender, we have age, different columns. But now they are now arranged in rows. They are now arranged in rows. So they are horizontal values now. So we cannot use VLOOKUP to do this because VLOOKUP is vertical. So it is different columns. We are going to be using horizontal. So the same thing you did for your VLOOKUP is the same thing you're going to do for your HLOOKUP. So you are creating an array that covers from the invoice number down to the category, right? So you highlight the whole value there. Your row index number, because you are no longer using columns, they are now rows. These values are now in rows. You have to count here. And the reason why we gave it 6, the reason why we gave it 6 was because category is in number 6. It's in cell 6. That's why we gave it. Our row index number is 6. That's it. Then the range lookup is false. That's why we have false there. The only difference between this and VLOOKUP is that one is horizontal, one is vertical. That's just the difference. Hope that is clear now.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I've made my Excel vex so. Hey. Alright. Now our index match. We are getting there. Index match is very easy. It's not as complicated as H and VLOOKUP. Those two are the ancient ones, right?
Is your screen
And
moving, please?
eh?
Is your screen moving?
Yes, on my screen.
I'm still seeing only H lookup.
I'm in H lookup now.
I thought you moved.
Okay. So the horizontal lookup, one of its limitation. Remember the vertical lookup. The vertical lookup is that its limitation is that one of its limitation is that it will look for things in the leftmost column. This one looks for things in the downwards rows. That is, it doesn't go up. So if I have customer ID, I cannot look for invoice number. It cannot go up. It can only be going down. That's its own limitation. Then for our index match is just like our lookup function. We are not creating array in this one, nothing like that. The only thing is that you are combining two functions together, your index and your match, right? So we have the customer ID. We have the customer ID and we want to, hope you guys can still see my screen, right?
Yes.
So we have the customer ID and we want to look for the revenue, right? Using index match. All we have to do here is to say equals to index. So the only thing we are going to give index in this case is the return array. The return array is the revenue column. What value do you want to return? What value do you want? Right? Where are they going to find the return value? Is in the return array. So that is the only thing you are giving your index. You are giving it the return value array. What value do you want to be returned, which is revenue? So your return array is going to be your I column, which is your revenue column. So you're going to give it I2 all the way to I60. So we have I2 all the way to I60. That's the only thing you're giving your index. Then you're going to put a comma and call out your match function. Your match function takes the lookup value. You can see that it's related to your lookup value, your lookup function before that we use. The only difference is that this array is at the back and we are not using two functions. So your match function takes the lookup value. Your lookup value is what? This ID you have here, right? Comma. Your lookup array is where you can find the customer ID, right? Where can you find the customer ID? In the B column. So we have B2 all the way to B60. And now you have your match type. Do you want a less than value? Do you want a exact match? Do you want greater match? Always want exact match so that if you don't find it, it tells you you cannot find it. It returns an error so you don't start getting wrong values. So exact match 0. That's it. Close your bracket once. You can see that it is still red. Close it twice. When you know that you are done closing your bracket in Excel is when you see the black bracket. So if you open it 2 billion times, if you keep closing and closing and you don't see the black one, it means that you are not done closing. So until you see the black one. So this is all you need to do and enter. Are we clear about index match?
Yes.
Yes. So now let's go to XLOOKUP. So our XLOOKUP function, like I said, is a very powerful one. Does so many things. So we can use it just like our normal lookup function, right? So we have the customer ID, we want to find the revenue. So we can say equals to XLOOKUP. So we are going to give it the lookup value, customer ID. The lookup array, where can we find customer ID? In the B column. So B2 to B14. So B2 all the way to B14, right? The return array is our revenue column. Where can we find revenue? In the J column. So J2 to J14. So we can end here. This is our lookup function now, but it's also a feature in XLOOKUP. We can end here, close our brackets. We can end this code here.
It's too fast. Oh.
Eh?
I said you were too fast.
How was I too fast? I already explained lookup function. Oh yeah. Read these things and tell me what we are asked to get. Oh yeah.
Look up array.
Eh?
Look up value. Look up value.
So what is lookup value?
Eh?
What is the lookup value now? Hey, you should not whine me.
Customer ID. Customer ID that is actually at this left. C1176086.
What next?
Then the array, which is the customer ID column.
So what is the customer ID column?
That's B. B2 to B14. B2 to B14.
What else?
The return array, I think that should be revenue.
You think?
Yes, revenue. J2 to J14.
Now, I said you close your bracket here. This is your lookup function. This is what we did first now. The very first thing we started this class with was this. This is what we did. So you can use your X lookup to just do this, only this. Close your bracket and enter. You get a value. You can decide to just do that. But now, so your X lookup is an extension of your lookup function. That very first one we did. Remember I said that that one came before X lookup. So it's an extension. So that means they added new features to it. Now called it X lookup. Right? So you can use it as just your lookup function, doing the normal thing your lookup function does. You can do that. Or you can decide to use other features which are there, which are present in this function, like your if error function is embedded in it. That's why we had to do the if error function in your VLOOKUP. So every other function don't have that feature where if not found, you have to embed your if error function in it to handle errors for you, right? They don't have those features. But now your XLOOKUP came with that function and you can use it if you want. If you don't want, you leave it. So I have this customer ID. Of course, this customer ID cannot be found because I made that up from everything we've seen. You can see that that customer ID does not exist. But let's say you don't know that and you want to use that feature in your XLOOKUP that says that you should, if not found, what should you do? Now, if we were using our VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, index match lookup function, we would have added our if error function. But for this one, we are not adding that function because it's already there. All we need to do is say equals to XLOOKUP, just what we did now. Our lookup value is this. That's the ID we want to look for. Our lookup array is the customer ID column, which is the B. So B2 all the way to B14. Our return array is the revenue, which is the J. So J2 all the way to J14. That's it. Now we can close this and say enter, right? But we're going to get error, NA error, because we did not tell it to handle the error. So we want it to handle these errors for us. All we need to do inside this our code, put a comma. If you notice, this one is now highlighted if not found. This function is not in any of these other ones we have seen so far. Is here if not found. Practically telling you if I find an error, what should I do? Right? So we're going to put a quote and tell it what to do if it finds an error. So if you find an error, it should say error found. Close your quote and enter. So you have your normal function and you have feature of if not found. If I find an error, what should I do? Because if the value cannot be found, Excel is definitely going to return an error. So it's basically saying if error, what should I do? Every other function, if we want to use the if error function, we have to put it outside here, embed this code in it. But this one already have that function inside it. That's one of the advanced feature that was added to the lookup function that made it X lookup. Are we clear about this one?
Yes. But coach, pardon me, I wanted to ask a question.
Go
It's
ahead.
clear, but I wanted to ask a question. Okay. From this X lookup thing, immediately after the if not found that is in the bracket, you still have match mode and search mode.
I'm
Those
coming
ones
to
is
that.
actually not really compulsory, right?
No, there's
Okay.
see from the only thing that is compulsory here is 1, 2, 3. This one is your choice. So
Okay.
telling you you want to handle error. This one is your choice also. Do you want exact match? Do you want closest match? Do you want wildcard? We are going to see how to use wildcard. This one is also your choice. Where do you want me to start searching from? So, but the most important thing here is
All right.
1, 2, 3. So once we give it this 1, 2, 3, your code runs perfectly. But if it finds an error, it's not going to handle it because you did not tell it to handle it. So if you want it to handle error, you have to tell it. If you want it to use a wildcard, you have to tell it. If you want to give it a search mode, you have to tell it. Do you understand?
Coach, thank you.
Okay.
Still
So
confused. No.
is somebody saying something?
I said it's still confusing a little bit.
Is what?
It's still confusing a little bit.
Don't worry, you'll get it in Jesus' name. Now, we want to use a function called a wildcard that is also in our XLOOKUP, right? So what our wildcard is so you have, remember I was talking about Omotosho Morenike when I was asking Adenike when I was explaining, and I say if you want to look for Adenike's email address and you give Excel, you know that Adenike is not data, and you give Excel, Excel is going to throw an error. Why? Because what Excel has is Adenike Omotosho. You are giving it Adenike. Excel is saying these two things are not related. So you want a function that is going to handle this value and tell Excel Adenike is also Adenike. So you're practically telling it to ignore Omotosho that is there in that data and give you Adenike, right? So I have in this my data set, I have John here and I have John here. The reason why I put two John there so that you see the limitation I was talking about earlier. So I have John in this data set and I want to find the revenue attached to John. My customer's name is John. I want to find the revenue that he generated for our company, right? So if you notice what I have here is John Tom. Let's see if Excel is going to find John. Since I just know that the person's name is John, let me see if Excel is going to give us return any value for us for John. So if you say equals to our X lookup and we give it John, which is our lookup value, comma, our lookup array is the name column, which is C. So we have C2 all the way to C14, right? Let me take this up. C2 all the way to C14. Our return array is the revenue J. So J2 all the way to J14, right? If not found, I want to skip that. I don't want any error to, I want my error to show. If an error, if I find an error, I want it to show. I want to skip that. I'm just going to put comma. That is one. If not found is highlighted, I'm going to put another comma. You can see that it has moved to match mode. It has skipped that because I put two commas. So if you want to skip a function, you put comma two times, right? Because the if not found is not compulsory. That's what I was trying to explain. It is not compulsory. It is only there to help you. If I find an error, should I do something? It's not compulsory. If you don't want to use it, you can put comma twice. If you are not getting to this other part, you just close your bracket and enter and do your code. All those other ones are not compulsory. So your match mode, right? So sorry, I don't want to show you how to use the match mode first. Sorry. I'm saying that I have John and I want to check for the revenue John is creating, right? We are going to get an error. Why? Because Excel is going to say, I don't know who John is. What I have in my data set is John Tom, but you are giving me John. So if I close this and enter, I have any error because Excel is saying it cannot be found. I don't know who John is. How do I tell Excel that, okay, oh, please take John, go to the data set, anywhere you find John, please give me, right? So I'm going to do something that is going to tell Excel that when you go to the data set, anything before John or after John, please ignore it, just as long as there's John in that cell. So if I have Adenike, John, Tom, as long as John is inside that cell, give me. So I'm practically telling Excel, ignore everything at the beginning, ignore everything at the end. If you find anything that is surrounding John, ignore it, give me John. this John must be equals to this John. All I need to do here, let me take this up so you can see it. All I need to do here, I'm going to say equals to X lookup, and I'm going to call this out. Now, this is a bit complicated, and I'm not saying that you should cram it in your head. We're going to put the ampersand sign, the and we're going to put this quotes, asterisks, and quotes. What this thing is doing here is we are telling Excel, please ignore anything that is surrounding John in the data set. I want John. So John Tom, ignore Tom. John is equals to John. Adenike John, ignore Adenike. Give me John. That is what we are telling Excel to do. That's what this ampersand quotes, asterisk, quotes is doing there. That's why we are attaching it to that lookup value, right? We're going to put a comma. Your lookup array, our normal thing we've been doing since. Where can you find the name column? You can find the name column in the C. So you have C2 all the way to C14. Then we have our return array. Our return array is our revenue, right? Which is the J column. So we have J2 all the way to J14, right? If not found, if you put a comma, you can write what Excel should do if not found. But if it finds an error, you can write an error not found if you want. If you don't want, just put comma twice, it will skip it. You put a comma. Now, this is where it is important. You need to get to this part if you are using this value. You must get to match mode. You cannot skip it. If you are using this search value, this ampersand, you want to use wildcard, you must get to match mode. That's the only time you must get there. So what you want to use is your wildcard character match. So you're saying take this John and go and match it to any John you find there. So we're going to pick number 2. Please, you should pay attention because I'm not sure I can go over this again. I'm really tired. Number 2, right? You're picking number 2, wildcard mode, and you close your bracket. So this value here is our lookup value, right? The ampersand sign with the whole gibberish thing that is happening here is basically telling Excel, please ignore everything that is surrounding this type of value in your data set. Why? Because remember the time we said take John and go to that data set, it told us it cannot find John because John was attached to Tom. So we are practically telling it, please, this gibberish we are telling you here is because we want you to take John and match it to any John you find there, whether the John is attached to anybody or not. Take it. This one now is our lookup array. Where can we find customer name, which we have been doing since. This one now is our return array, which is our revenue. That's what we want it to return. This one is if not found. That's if it finds an error. If at the end of doing all this gibberish, it finds an error, that should handle it. But if you don't want that, you just put a comma twice. So you have this comma, you skip this thing, put another comma. But you must get to this part where you put number 2 because that is your match mode. You want to click that you are using a wildcard. So if you are using a value that is representing, that looks like you are not sure, you just know that there is John, but you are not sure, that is practically using a wildcard. You want to click on number 2, which is a wildcard mode. That's it. That's the only time you must get there. That's it, and enter. Now we have a value for John. Let's see. So this is John. So we use the revenue column. This is it, right? The limitation I was talking about is if you have 2 John or 3 or 4, Excel will only return value for the first John. It will not return for the second John or the third John. So if you notice in this data set, there's another John I have here. The only time Excel is going to notice this John is if maybe this John is not here. So the value I have here is 308, right? Is referencing this John on that here. This other John that I have here is 900. If I change this John that I have here, let me change that John to Jane. Let's see the answer we have here. Can you see that the revenue have changed? Because now it's referencing this other John that we have here, and that is the revenue that John is generating. So it will pick the first value it finds for that your wildcard. So every other value that is down there, it doesn't consign it. That's one of the limitation of this using this wildcard in your X lookup. That's why I'm saying that they might still bring up new lookup function or maybe update these ones in such a way that you can find all the joins that are there. Hope that is clear. Hope we are clear.
Yes. Yes.
Is anybody confused before we go?
Yeah, that's two that you put at the last end. You know, you put two as your wild card. That two that you add there, is it a must that it must be two? Can it not be any other number again?
When you got to your wildcard match, what is representing wildcard? When you got your match,
Oh,
what's
okay. I
representing
didn't
wildcard?
see it before. Yeah, yes, true, true, true. I didn't see it before.
Any other question? People have killed me. I've been sitting on the floor since because of network.
It's in
See,
the next
my
class that
bum.
you receive questions.
Eh?
It's in the next class, when we watch this video today, you receive questions tomorrow.
Exactly. Coach,
There shouldn't be
but you
any
are going to, will
look
you be
up.
able to upload this?
There shouldn't be any questions if you relax and watch it very well. Because I know I have explained this to the lowest, to the lowest, to the lowest. It's not complicated. That's why I started with the very easy one, so that you have an idea of what he's talking about before we explain VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. You will even understand it better when you watch it on your own and take your time to watch it. Don't just rush and just do it. Right? But still go through the video if you are confused about anything and bring your questions for tomorrow.
Coach, would you upload the video tonight or tomorrow?
I will do that like right
Do it
away.
tonight.
Like
Yeah, she'll do it tonight.
I'll do that now.
All right.
But it
Thank
might take
you.
time to do it. Network is not really strong on my end.
Don't alert us when you do it.
Alright, sure.